A worst case scenario UFC 305 around me in each of the boxes. I have the worst possible case scenarios for this Saturday's UFC card. We're jumping right into things and starting it off with worst case scenario number one, and it would be Biggie Boy ends Tuivasa. Tai Tuivasa is on a 4-fight losing streak right now, and he's been finished in all of those fights. It's easy to go out and say he's washed, but for a heavyweight, he's still relatively young, and there's positives to take away in some of those matchups. Like last time, against Marcin Tybura, his striking still looked good, but always suspect grappling on Tuivasa's side is what ended the fight for him. On the feet, he was whooping Marcin Tybura. He busted him open. So I think as bad as it is that he's lost these 4 in a row, especially the Tybura one, styles make the fights. And that's always a bad matchup for him, a guy with good grappling skill. He's not fighting a grappler here. He's taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And when you look, yes, he's also lost to 3 strikers on the current losing streak, but Volkov submitted him. Pavlovich ran him over quickly. He looked bad. But if you think about it, he also took insane amounts of damage against Cyril Gane in the fight prior to taking on Sergey Pavlovich and did well at moments. He dropped Cyril Gane. He had that massive punch that put Gane down, the first guy to drop him. And there was excitement there. I mean, he put up a bit of a fight. Yes, he took a ton of damage. He definitely was showing signs of lingering effects in the Pavlovich fight too, because I don't think he could eat punches the same. But Pavlovich is also just a horrible matchup for him. If you think of the styles of the last 4 opponents, they're Tuivasa's kryptonite. Who's not his kryptonite? Probably Biggie Boy Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who's primarily a kickboxer. Yes, he is fairly technical and has a lot of pro kickboxing fights. He works a decent jab. He has knockout power. His low kicks aren't bad. He moves relatively well for a heavyweight. But Tuivasa's got the heavier hands. He's got the better boxing. He's the more athletic guy, and I also think he's quicker. There's moments where as Biggie Boy looks to close the gap in exchange, the chin comes up in the air, he squares off, he gets wild, and he's counterable. And I think that Tai Tuivasa is live for a counter shot KO win. And for him to take a fat L all the way in Australia, and we're not getting a Shui at home for him, I think it would be devastating. So I'm feeling like Tuivasa, we're going to witness one, and I think Tai's getting a knockout of Biggie Boy. This would be a really, really bad outcome if Biggie Boy chins him. If Rozenstruik gets a knockout in front of the Australians, a lot of people going out to support Tai, and the fact that Tai is a marketable, high entertainment heavyweight in a fun fight, I'd be pretty sad because 5 losses in a row, regardless of all ranked opposition, unless you're Tony Ferguson, you might be looking at your pink slip and Tuivasa might be taking the gloves off and switching to BKFC. And that's not something that I want right now. I want a Tuivasa knockout. I want some more memes from him. So I think that Tuivasa's pulling through as a dog. I'm picking him. And I really hope Biggie Boy doesn't end him because I, for one, will be sad. I will be devastated. Let's keep running. Next one. Gamrot wins via lay and pray. This is actually a really probable outcome for the Dan Hooker fight, but that doesn't mean it isn't awful. Mateusz Gamrot's a great chain wrestler. He shoots tons of takedowns, and he doesn't really need to be that accurate because the amount of shots he's taking, eventually he's putting you on your back. Now, Dan Hooker's a good kickboxer, a dangerous kickboxer. We have seen him dominated on the floor and taken down before. Makhachev made super easy work of Dan Hooker on the ground. Now, argument is Dan Hooker's gotten better since that fight. Sure. And he is on a win streak right now. And he looked really tough against Jalen Turner. And you could say, hey, Jalen Turner gave Gamrot a really tough fight too. Granted, that fight was really short notice. Gamrot took it on 10 days, I believe. And you look, yeah, he didn't go out and perform as well as he has in previous fights, but that was not 100% cardio Gamrot. Gamrot in shape and on point. This is a likely case scenario, and it's a worst case scenario. Now, I'm picking Gamrot confidently, so prediction-wise, I guess that's good. But I really hope that I'm wrong. For the fans, for the UFC, for the sport, we're better off having Dan Hooker, a primary based and entertaining striker, get an impressive knockout of a chain wrestler. If the top 15 was filled with all Gamrots, the UFC ratings would be doing an absolute nosedive, and most fans would be watching boxing on the weekends, not MMA. So we need Dan Hooker to pull through and get an upset. I don't think we will. And I know betting-wise, I know a lot of the bettors are freaking out because Gamrot is a staple in most of the parlays. He's the vast majority's confident pick, mine included. But if there's any confident pick that I'm okay with it being wrong and even a financial L, which will be disappointing, I will be more happy to pay my money and get a Dan Hooker upset. But damn, I don't think so. Gamrot via lay and pray. But there is a best case scenario for Gamrot. If Gamrot's entertaining and finishes Dan Hooker with the submission, beats him up on the ground and looks really good, I'd be pretty happy for him. I wouldn't be nearly as disappointed. But if the fight's a snoozer and Gamrot is just timing takedowns, controlling and not throwing many shots, yes, I'm going to be pissed off. And you at home should be really pissed off too. It's possible, but I just don't think the finish is that likely. Ugh, I hate that. I hate that. I really hope that Gamrot doesn't put us to sleep. I would prefer not to do a fight companion for this fight with a damn neck pillow because I want to make sure I'm awake for you guys so I can play-by-play it up. And Gamrot via boring chain wrestle lay and pray, not what I want to see. And definitely not good for his stock moving up the weight class. Like, who's going to be asking Gamrot in a title fight if he snooze fest Dan Hooker? Nobody. But if he goes out and wins by submission, we're impressed. Or even if it's a relatively good fight, I'll be happier with it. But this Gamrot lay and pray 30-27, I pray doesn't happen. You should too, man. Pray your hands together. Hopefully not. For the parlays, I know we need Gamrot. But if Dan Hooker caught him with a knee and flattened him, that'd be pretty badass because Dan Hooker 2.0 looks like a damn created fighter in UFC 5. Dude's tatted up now. And I wouldn't be disappointed seeing a massive upset as a fan, even though I think Gamrot lay and pray is likely. That's the official call. Let's keep running. Next one. KaraFrance chins Steve Erceg. This will depress me to a point where I'm not so sure I'll be able to come back. I might have to go into hiding and disappear from everybody for upwards of 5 days. Okay, this would be me in a state of mourning because I am an Erceg's witness. I am an Erceg fan. I like the toughest member of the Geek Squad of all time, Steve Erceg. Best Buy's finest, Steve Erceg's a savage, okay? I'm a fan of Best Buy's finest. How can you not be? A knockout loss here would be devastating, and it would be really sad to see. Now, obviously, the weight class would be okay, but I'm talking my worst case scenario, fan-sided, it would be a heartbreak if Erceg takes an L, man. The king of the nerds deserves a W after that Pantoja fight that was barely dropped out of his hand. He slightly fumbled the bag, but it was this close to him. And I've heard people say, the only reason he looked good against Pantoja is because he's just kind of a bad matchup for Pantoja. I disagree. I think it's because Steve Erceg is one of the best flyweights in the world, and I feel like he's going to show out and put it on KaraFrance. He can box with him, he can grapple with him, and he's also got the size advantage, which I think is a big factor here. For KaraFrance to go out and chin a Steve Erceg, I think Erceg would need to walk into something really stupid, and I feel like he's a pretty fine-tuned kickboxer with a high fight IQ for the most part. Pantoja fight, there were some moments, but here, I don't think he'll fumble the bag like that. I think Steve Erceg's taking a competitive decision home. I don't think KaraFrance is chinning him. If it happens, it'll be a worst case scenario. And not only for all of the other reasons listed, but also because Erceg is the lock of the week. So you guys know I'd be down. I'd be down in the dumps. It ain't going to happen. We're going 5 in a row on the locks, too. If you didn't know, well, now you know. I think Steve Erceg's taking a nice W home. He's going to taste victory. He's not taking back-to-back L's. As good as KaraFrance's striking is, I don't think he has the jab to deal with Steve Erceg's stand-up, and I think Erceg's going to mix in some takedowns, make it a quality fight, and pull off a decision win. So no, KaraFrance, stand down. You're not chinning Steve Erceg, okay? Steve is taking it home. Captain Steve, king of the Geek Squad, getting a W done. Let's keep going. We got more. The next one. This is a prelim fight. I wanted to throw a prelim fight in the mix. I said, you know what? This one fits. The featured prelim, Walter Walker via smothering. Now, if you didn't know, Walter Walker is fighting Junior Tafa, the former Glory kickboxer and brother of Justin Tafa, one of the Polynesian striking savages who have really suspect grappling. Let's be honest. They always have. since the dawn of the Polynesians getting into the UFC, none of them are known for jiu-jitsu. None of them are known for wrestling. They're known for knockout power. They come from a kickboxing culture. And I think that the striking of Tafa is relatively good. He's definitely got quality knockout power. He's got fast hands. He's young in the heavyweight division. And Walter Walker is a bit of a snooze fest type. That's why I said via smothering. Because if Walker goes out and gets a good win in a competitive fight, or even a dominant win in a fight that is very one-sided, but he looks impressive, I won't be that disappointed, right? I'd be like, okay, at least he beat him up. He showed improvement since last time. But if Walter Walker's style is pressure grappling against the cage, just using his body weight to hold Tafa there, maybe timing one takedown and doing essentially zilch with ground and pound and just laying his damn heavy-ass body on top of Tafa, that's not what I want to see. That's not what any of us want to see, man. Either way, if Tafa loses, it'll be sad because another Polynesian striker goes down and this legend of Mark Hunt is becoming more like a distant memory. I don't even know if it happened at this point. We need a savage from the damn Polynesian region, bro. They sell, they got big power, they got big heads, they got big legs, they can get some nasty calf kicks in. I hope that a ton of grappling defense is what Tafa's been working on because we already know he can strike. But on the ground is where he's mad suspect. And Walter Walker is going to look to grapple him. Walter Walker is not really a good striker. He's pretty mid. I would say basic, actually. Basic striking. Fundamental stand-up, but nothing exciting or nothing impressive or nothing that he does that really stands out. You look at the Lucas Drezhki fight. What is he doing? Smothering him and holding him, trying to take him down? Horrible stand-up, gassing in the second round. Now, I'll throw a cautionary tale to you guys. Walter Walker posted a picture on his Instagram of his new UFC pictures that he got done, and he looks like he lost 10 pounds of body fat. That could mean a few extra minutes of cardio. And that fight against Drezhki, the reason he ended up losing, regardless of the controversial decision, is because the gas tank completely waned and he didn't have the ability to land those key takedowns anymore. And we've seen Lucas Drezhki look pretty bad, especially against Mick Park, and he got absolutely dusted. I think Junior Tafa's got a live chance. And if Tafa is to lose, at least let it be via something entertaining. I don't want a snoozing smother fest, cuddle fest mode from Walter Walker. I don't think it's happening, though. I think it's going to be a good fight. And I think Tafa's got a chance to rock Walter Walker and knock him out. And I think Walker's going to be panic wrestling and he'll get caught by something and probably put down unless he has improved like 20% and his gas tank is way better. Because as of right now, I think he's incredibly mid. And let's get to the final one, okay? The main event of the evening. Izzy wins a snooze fest. A point fighting, kickboxing, striking snooze fest. A la Izzy versus Yoel Romero, something like that. Or even Izzy versus Jared Cannonier. A fight that just wasn't really good, but Izzy was relatively clean in. He was definitely closer against Romero, but both fights were absolute snoozers, right? He keeps his distance, he kickboxes, he moves, he slips, he slides. Now, to be fair, Israel Adesanya has shown a crazy physique transformation. Kind of looks like he's taking that growth hormone, to be honest. And he's looking absolutely jacked heading into this fight with Dricus du Plessis. So maybe we get prime form Izzy and he can pull out a knockout. It won't be so much of Izzy winning that's my problem. It's Izzy winning by another boring decision. I just don't want that anymore. If Izzy is to win, I'm hoping that this late career run is going to be a violent one. Not these damn boring point fighting decisions, which he was like the Floyd Mayweather of the UFC for a little bit. I don't want that. I want violence. I want back and forth fights. Now, I'm also hoping the Izzy era can officially be over with, but I don't know for sure. Either way, we know one thing. Strickland is next for the winner. Dana White announced it. Granted, he could change his mind, and he could end up matching Khamzat up in there, which is interesting, right? Dana is adamant. Sean Strickland is next, but Tom Aspinall, the interim champ, isn't getting a shot at John Jones until after Stipe and him fight, if John Jones doesn't retire after the fight, which hinting that he is going to. But that's a whole different conversation. That's a subject for another day or another video, okay? The Khamzat Chimaev fight is big, and that will be on the table. And, I mean, if Izzy wins, I see the plan. It goes Izzy, Strickland, and then if Khamzat is able to beat Whitaker, it would then be Izzy versus Khamzat. Now, if Whitaker wins, that fight's off. The Strickland fight, I doubt they do a trilogy. I just don't know if it'll be that anticipated unless this second fight is an absolute banger, because more than likely it's going to be a competitive affair. But I can see the vision for the UFC is you get Izzy the belt back, he avenges the loss to Strickland, and then who does he fight? Maybe even a final fight. He takes on Alex Pereira for the 205-pound title in the trilogy. Rather, more than the trilogy if you count the fights outside of the UFC, but if you're counting MMA only, the trilogy. And I don't think anybody would hate that fight. But there's a lot of work for Izzy to do to be put in that situation. And in a sense, it's kind of easier not to. Because if du Plessis wins and Khamzat's impressive, I don't think it would be horrible instead of Strickland being next in line for du Plessis to fight Khamzat. Because go back and watch the Strickland-du Plessis fight. Like, yeah, it was competitive for sure. And I know a lot of people, including myself at the time, thought that Sean Strickland deserved the win. But going back and really rewatching it, I can see the 3-2 for du Plessis. And it's not like it was a slugfest, a banging fight. Maybe a rematch is supposed to happen, but Strickland wasn't really that impressive against Paulo Costa, but his Israel Adesanya win has locked him into a position where he's probably next for the title. But I'm just saying, something new would be fun. A Khamzat Chimaev Dricus du Plessis fight, if Khamzat is able to beat Rob Whittaker, especially if he's able to impressively beat Rob Whittaker, why wouldn't you want to watch that? That fight would be absolutely dope. And I think it's on the horizon depending on this outcome. I'm not so sure that Sean Strickland is guaranteed the #1 shot. I think it's circumstantial. Yes, if Izzy wins, probably the Strickland fights. But can you imagine the shit show we get into then? What if Strickland beats Adesanya for a second time, and now Dricus du Plessis then fights against Sean Strickland for the belt, and now we're just rigmaroling it like shit? Khamzat Chimaev, even if he's impressive against Whittaker, is then kind of in no man's land. So things can get very, very murky in the waters, depending on matchmaking, but also how this fight looks. If Izzy wins a boring fight, I'm not excited for anything forthcoming aside from him potentially fighting Pereira in a perfect world, because I'd like to see Pereira knock his ass out. Shama. If du Plessis goes out and wins, I mean, even if it's more boring, I guess I'd be more satisfied with it because I'm not as opposed to the future because we've seen such a long history of Izzy in championship fights. So a worst case scenario, though, ultimately with this fight is not determined on who wins, it's how they win. If Izzy knocks out Dricus du Plessis, I will be very excited for what's coming forward. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe he's turned the corner. This is Izzy 2.0. But if he looks similar to how he did against like a Jared Cannonier and he gets a competitive point fighting win and he puts us all to sleep, no, I'm not going to be excited for the Strickland rematch. It'll be a fight I'll watch, as we all will, but nobody's going to be counting down the days to it. We'll see what happens. If Izzy gets a knockout and he looks better than ever and he looks maybe even back to the violent prime form, then maybe the conversation is different. And that rematch with Sean Strickland could be the most highly anticipated fight in 2025. Or even at the end of 2024, depending on how long Izzy will want to take to turn around. But I also see the world, and the prediction is the world we live in has DDP and still. But we shall find out on fight day. Those are the 5 worst case scenarios for UFC 305. If you think that I left anything out, let me know in the comments. I want to hear from the people. If you guys like this series, definitely tell me. Make sure you smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, it's your first time here, subscribe. Got content every day. Got the daily content schedule linked in the description too, so you know what's coming out on what days. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you all. 305 going down. I can't wait for it. Shama, peace out. Good night, everyone.